Some people believe the dark web is just another hidden part of the internet. They're wrong. Behind encrypted forums and anonymous chat rooms are stories that rarely make the news, stories that end with missing people, unexplained messages, and strangers who somehow know exactly where you live. Tonight, you'll hear 3 disturbing stories inspired by real experiences shared online. Whether every detail is true is something you'll have to decide for yourself. Let's begin. After graduating from university, I started working in the field of cybersecurity. Due to my job, I was researching parts of the internet that normal users never get to see. The dark web wasn't a terrifying place for me. At least, that's what I thought. One night, while browsing an old forum, I came across a thread that hadn't been active for years. The title consisted of just 2 words: Live Now. There were hundreds of comments underneath it. But the strange thing was, all of the comments were deleted. Only a single message remained. If you watch, it sees you too. I thought it was internet trolling. I gave in to my curiosity. I opened the link in the Tor browser. For about 10 seconds, the screen was completely black. Just as I was about to close it, the video appeared. It looked like footage from an old security camera, an empty street, yellow streetlights, rain, and no movement at all. Nothing happened for the first few minutes. Just as I was preparing to turn off the computer, someone appeared on the right side of the camera. A man in a black hoodie. He was walking slowly. His face was not visible, but that wasn't what bothered me. I recognized the street the camera was facing because that street was the entrance to the neighborhood where I lived. At first, I thought it was a coincidence. Maybe it was just another place that looked like my neighborhood. But a few seconds later, the small details I saw on the screen froze my blood completely. The old newsstand on the corner, the red mailbox next to it, and the bent streetlight that had been standing there since my childhood. All of these were on my street. I tried to zoom in on the camera view. Right at that moment, the hooded man stopped. He slowly raised his head. His face was still not visible, but it was as if he was looking directly at the camera. A new message popped up in the chat box for the first time. Hasn't arrived home yet. Stared at the screen for a long time. There were about 40 people watching the live stream. None of them were talking. Just a few minutes later, another message arrived. Will arrive shortly. That moment, a strange feeling came over me. I pulled out my phone and opened the security camera app for my apartment building. The front of the building was empty. Everything looked normal. I thought I was scaring myself for no reason. I was about to shut down the computer just as I was moving the mouse toward the close button. The hooded man in the live stream pulled his phone out of his pocket. A few seconds later, my phone started ringing. The number was hidden. I didn't answer. The ringing stopped. When I looked back at the screen, a new message was written in the chat box. Why didn't you answer your phone? The moment I saw that message, I got up from the computer. I parted the curtain slightly. The street was completely empty. It was still raining. There was no one there. I told myself it was just a bad prank set up by someone. Just as I was closing the curtain, I saw a silhouette under the streetlight. Black hoodie, not moving at all, just like the man in the live stream. My heart started beating fast. I closed the curtain completely. My phone rang again. This time I answered. There was no voice on the other end, only the sound of very faint breathing. For about 10 seconds, nothing happened. Just as I was about to hang up, I heard a muffled sound resembling a whisper. Why did you close the curtain? I dropped the phone from my hand. I ran back to the computer. The live stream was still open. The hooded man was now standing directly in front of the camera. There was a single new message in the chat box. Look behind him. That moment I realized the room was completely silent. It felt as though even the sound of the computer fan had cut out. I slowly dared to turn around. My room was empty. I took a deep breath. Just as I thought I could relax, the live stream on the computer screen suddenly changed. It was no longer showing the street. The camera was showing my apartment hallway. The hallway was completely empty. The footage was coming from the security camera at the entrance of the building. The time was visible in the corner of the screen, 00:43. At that exact moment, I opened my real security camera app. The time showed 00:46. The stream on the live broadcast was delayed by about 3 minutes. At first, I thought this was normal. Then the elevator door in the hallway opened. Someone in a black hoodie stepped out. They started walking with slow steps toward my apartment. I couldn't take my eyes off the image on the computer. The man came right in front of my door. He tilted his head, as if he was listening to the door. Then he pulled a small key out of his pocket. My breath caught in my throat. I immediately ran to the front door. I checked all the locks. They were all locked. I was reaching for my phone to call the police when a metallic sound came from the computer. The hooded man in the broadcast had inserted the key into the lock. A final message dropped into the chat box on the screen. 3 minutes. It took me a few seconds to understand what it meant. The footage in the stream was 3 minutes behind, which meant what was happening on the screen would actually happen 3 minutes later. Without thinking, I left the apartment. I ran toward the fire escape just as I started heading down. Someone from the lower floor was slowly walking up. Black hoodie, same height, same gait. I still couldn't see his face. I froze on the stairs. The person coming up was climbing the steps heavily. His face was still under the hood. I thought about pulling out my phone and turning on the flashlight, but a voice inside me was telling me not to do it. I slowly started stepping backward. Right at that moment, the door to one of the upstairs apartments opened. An old man poked his head out. He looked at the hooded person, then he turned to me. His face turned completely pale all at once. Without saying anything, he slammed his door shut. As for the hooded person, he kept walking without stopping. I started running. When I got outside the building, it was still raining. I went into the cafe across the street and called the police. Within 10 minutes, the officers arrived. We returned to the apartment together with them. The hallway was completely empty. My door hadn't been tampered with. The locks were intact. We watched the security camera recordings. Time 00:46. Someone actually appeared in the hallway, but right at the moment the video was about to show their face, the footage suddenly corrupted. Just a few seconds of a black screen. Then the recording continued as normal. The police said it was a technical glitch. They wanted to inspect my computer. The stream on the dark web had long since closed. The link was no longer working, and the forum was completely deleted. I tried to forget that night. About 2 weeks later, I bought a new laptop. I never opened the old computer again. I thought everything was over. Until one night, an anonymous message arrived in my email inbox. Inside the message, there was only a single file. The file name, Live Now. MP4. I didn't open the video, but the preview image had loaded in the small thumbnail. The place the camera was showing wasn't my old home. This time, the room the camera was looking at was the very room I was sitting in at that moment. And standing in the bottom right corner of the screen was someone. When I turned around, there was no one there. I started getting interested in cryptocurrencies about 3 years ago. Because of this, I used to spend a lot of time on privacy-focused forums. One night, I received an invite link to an old dark web marketplace that required membership. Out of curiosity, I accepted. At first glance, it looked like an ordinary shopping site. Electronics, old collectible items, encrypted phones. Nothing seemed strange. When I scrolled to the very bottom of the page, a hidden category with a lock icon caught my attention. It simply read, Private AUCTIONS. I clicked on the category. Inside, there were only 5 listings. None of them had product photos. There were only countdown timers. The description of the first listing was just a single sentence. Current bid, 12.4 BTC. In the second listing, pickup available. In the third listing, there was no description at all, just a black photo. And a file name, subject 017. At first, I thought it was an illegal data sale. Then, giving in to my curiosity, I opened the details of the first listing. This was the one page in my entire life I wish I had never opened. As soon as the page opened, the screen turned completely black. About 2 seconds later, a single photo appeared. An old warehouse. A metal chair in the center. Someone was sitting on the chair. Their face was completely in the dark. Below the photo, instead of a product description, it read, status, available. At first, I thought it was a fake page created to scare people. Then I noticed the bidding history on the right side of the page. People were actually bidding 14 BTC, 15.8 BTC, 17 BTC, all made within a few minutes of each other. There was a small chat section at the bottom. One user wrote, "Last month's delivery was seamless. Someone else, want it live this time." A lump formed in my throat. I tried to close the browser. Right at that moment, a notification popped up in the upper right corner of the screen. "You are now watching." I moved the mouse. The notification didn't disappear. I tried to close it again. It didn't work. Then another message appeared, "Don't leave yet." The computer froze. None of the keys on the keyboard were working. Only the page was open. About 30 seconds later, the black photo changed. This time, a short video played. The person in the chair slowly raised their head. Their face still couldn't be made out. But the sound heard in the background caught my attention. A train whistle. Right after, a church bell. And the sound of an ambulance passing in the distance. I knew these sounds very well, because every night the same train passed by the station near my house. While trying to pause the video, a new line appeared at the bottom of the screen. Distance, 2.4 km. I read the text on the screen several times. Distance, 2.4 km. At first, I thought it was a randomly generated number. Then I gave in to my curiosity. I opened the map. I marked the location of my home. I drew a circle with a radius of about 2.4 kilometers right inside that area. There was an old industrial site that had been unused for years. When I was a kid, they used to say nobody went there. I returned to the computer. The video had finished. A new button had appeared at the bottom of the page. View next subject. Without thinking, I closed the browser. This time it actually closed. I took a deep breath just as I thought I could relax. A message arrived on my phone from an unknown number. Inside, there was only a set of coordinates. When I pasted them into the map, it pointed to the exact same industrial site. Below the message, it read in a single sentence, 15 minutes left until the auction starts. I immediately blocked the number. But a few seconds later, the same message came from another number, then another one, and another one. A total of 8 different numbers, all 8 with the same coordinates. I didn't leave the house that night. When morning came, all the messages had automatically vanished from my phone, and in the operator records, none of those numbers appeared to have sent me any messages. I tried to completely forget the incident. I reset my computer. I deleted the Tor browser. I never visited that site again. About a month later, as I was leaving work, the company's security guard stopped me. "Someone was looking for you." I asked who it was. "Leave a name." Left this and walked off. He handed me a small brown envelope from his desk. Only my name was written on it. Inside was a single photo. The photo was of me. It was taken in front of my workplace. But I had never noticed being photographed that day. On the back, a single sentence was written in black pen. Bid rejected. That moment, my entire body went ice cold. I checked the date the photo was taken. It was the exact day after the night I had accessed that dark website. I immediately went to the police station. I handed over the photo. They questioned me for hours. In the end, they said they would look into the matter. 2 weeks later, they called again. The paper the photo was printed on was just ordinary photo paper. No fingerprints. No DNA. Security cameras were reviewed. No one was seen leaving an envelope. As for the security guard, on the footage, he was sitting alone at his desk at that time. It was as if the person who gave me the envelope had never existed. The police closed the case a few weeks later. The official explanation was very simple: insufficient evidence found. I tried to move on with my life as well. I moved to a new house. I changed my phone number. I completely replaced my computer. I didn't even download the Tor browser ever again. About 6 months passed. One night as I was returning home, I found an anonymous black envelope in the mailbox at the building entrance. There was no stamp on it, no sender, just my name. I went up to my apartment and opened the envelope. A small black card came out of it. On the front of the card, there was only a QR code, and on the back, a single sentence: someone else placed the winning bid. That night, I threw the card in the trash. The next morning, the card was back on my desk. I told myself it was just due to stress. This time, I tore the card to pieces and burned it in the kitchen stove. I made sure it turned completely to ash. I never saw it again, at least. That's what I thought. About a year later at my new job, I went to reception to pick up my security badge. The clerk handed me a black envelope. "This was left for you this morning." I got a terrible feeling inside. I threw the envelope in the trash without opening it. The clerk looked at me strangely. Then she paused and said, "Interesting." "Why?" I asked. The woman stayed quiet for a few seconds, then she answered in a whisper, "Because the person who left that envelope was you." I wanted to watch the security footage. Someone really showed up in the recordings. A man in a hooded black jacket. His face never turned toward the camera. But the moment he signed, the visitor log at the entrance was clearly readable. In the signature section, there was only one name: my name. I had never believed in most of the stories told about the dark web on the internet, because the company I worked for supported a small cybersecurity team that tracked illegal websites. One day, one of my teammates sent me a strange link. Inside the message, they had written only this: "Don't you dare open this alone." Of course, I didn't listen. At night, after everyone went asleep, I opened Tor. The link was working. A completely black page appeared before me. There was no logo, no ads, nor any kind of explanation. There was a single box in the center of the page. On it was written, "Search yourself." At first, I thought it was just a joke. Out of curiosity, I typed my name. The moment I pressed enter, the screen froze for a few seconds. Then hundreds of results began to show up. On the first line, my full name, my date of birth, my old address, my phone number, my university details. It was possible for these to be found on the internet. But as I scrolled down, things started to change. There was an incident from my childhood that I had never told anyone about. When I was 10 years old, I had gotten lost and was found 6 hours later in the forest. The details of this event were known to no one outside my family. In the middle of the page, I saw this sentence: "You started crying at 1742." That was true, but no one knew that except me. I tried to close the page. Right at that moment, a new line was added at the very bottom of the screen. "You wish to continue." I clicked the no button. Nothing happened. The page froze for a few seconds, then a new screen opened. In the title, it read only Future Archive. Underneath it, there was a date, exactly 1 week later. At first, I thought this was a randomly generated fake page. I started reading the first line: "You will be late for work on Monday morning." Brushed it off. The second line: "Your boss will call you into a meeting at 13:18. The third line: "You will forget to buy milk from the market in the evening." Laughed it off. I shut down the computer the next day. My alarm didn't go off on my way to work. For the first time in my life, I was half an hour late in the afternoon. At exactly 13:18, my phone rang. My boss was calling me into a meeting. On my way home in the evening, I stopped by the market. When I got home and opened the fridge, I realized I had genuinely forgotten to buy milk. An indescribable unease settled inside me. I opened the computer again. The site was still open. This time there was a new section at the very bottom of the page. When I saw the title, my hand froze on the mouse. Gave in to my curiosity. I opened the tomorrow section. Short notes written hour by hour appeared before me. 08:12, you will spill your coffee. 09:47, an unknown number will call you. 18:36, on your way home, someone in a red jacket will follow you. Ignored the first two. The next morning, while making coffee in the kitchen, the mug slipped from my hand. Coffee spilled all over the kitchen. Just as I was cleaning it up, the phone rang. The number was caller ID hidden. I answered. No one was talking on the other side, just the sound of heavy breathing lasting a few seconds. Then the line disconnected. A terrible feeling had begun to form inside me. When I left work that evening, I was constantly checking behind me. It's just a coincidence, I was trying to convince myself. I came out of the metro. I started walking toward home. About 50 meters ahead, someone in a red jacket was standing on the opposite side of the sidewalk. I couldn't see their face as I walked. They started walking too. At one point, I sped up. They sped up too. As I turned the corner of the street, I looked back. There was no one there. I ran up to the apartment. I locked the door. I turned on the computer. The site had refreshed itself. This time there was a single line at the top. Now open the curtain. Stared at the computer for a long time. A single sentence. Now open the curtain. My heart was beating so fast that I was struggling to breathe. Despite this, I slowly approached the window. I parted the curtain a few centimeters. There was no one outside. The street was completely silent. I took a deep breath. Just as I was closing the curtain, someone was standing in front of a window on the 3rd floor of the apartment building opposite mine. The lights were off. I couldn't make out their face, but I could feel them looking at me. They didn't move at all for a few seconds. I pulled out my phone and tried to take a photo by zooming in. Right as I opened the camera, a notification sound came from my computer desk. I ran and looked at the screen. The site had automatically added a new line. No need to zoom in. My blood froze. Because while I was trying to take the photo, my back was turned to the computer screen. It was impossible for them to see that. That night I unplugged the computer. I turned off the router. I put my phone on airplane mode. Not a single electronic device was left on. I sat until morning without turning off the lights. When the sun rose, I looked at the window again. The window in the opposite apartment was empty. I tried to tell myself it was psychological, just as I was relaxing. My phone vibrated even though it was on airplane mode. There was only a single notification on the screen. The sender wasn't visible, and the message simply said, "Don't close the curtains tonight." The moment I saw the message, I dropped the phone from my hand. The router was still turned off. The phone was still on airplane mode. It was impossible for this notification to arrive. That night, I didn't open the curtains. I sat on the couch until morning. When day broke, I packed up all my electronic devices. I formatted the computer. I changed my phone. I even changed my internet provider. My life started returning to normal, at least. That's what I thought. About 8 months later, I moved to another city. A new job, a new house, a new life. I had completely forgotten about the site. One night, I returned late from work. As I stepped out of the elevator and walked toward my apartment, I saw a white envelope slipped under my door. There was no name on it. I opened it up. There was a single photo. The photo was showing my living room. The angle the photo was taken from was from the exact corner of my room near the ceiling. I had never in my life had a photo taken from that angle. On the back, only one sentence was written: "You closed the curtains again." That moment, I searched the entire house, inside the closets, under the bed, in the attic. There was no one. I called the police. No evidence of forced entry was found in the house, nor could they determine when the photo was taken. That night, for the first time, I opened the curtain in my bedroom completely. I looked out at the street. On the top floor of the opposite apartment building, a single window was open. The inside was completely dark, just as I was about to close the curtain. Inside the darkness behind the glass, a computer screen lit up. A single line was visible on the screen, "Search yourself, be reflex." I blinked. The screen was gone. The next morning, I went to the opposite apartment building. The old woman who answered the door looked at me in astonishment. "I'm sorry," she said. "That apartment has been empty for 3 years. After that day, I never found that site on the internet again. But sometimes at night, my computer screen turns black for a few seconds, and right before it shuts off completely, a single sentence appears in the middle of the screen: 'We never stopped watching.'"